October 1974. A Tuesday afternoon in Greenwich Village, New York. A street musician named Tommy Greco sat on a milk crate outside a coffee shop, playing Strangers in the Night on a battered guitar, his case open for spare change. Maybe 15 people walked past without looking. Then a man in sunglasses and a cloth cap stood there listening, and when Tommy finished the song, the man asked, "Mind if I join you for one?" Tommy laughed, said sure, handed him a spare harmonica he kept in his case. For the next 12 minutes, they performed together, and nobody in that crowd of 30 people knew they were watching Frank Sinatra. This is that story. Tommy Greco had been playing the streets of Greenwich Village for 3 years. He was 28 years old, a Vietnam veteran who'd come home in 1971 with a Purple Heart and nightmares that wouldn't stop. Music was the only thing that helped. So he'd taken his father's old guitar, learned a few chords, and started playing for tips on the corner of Blecker and McDougal. He wasn't great. His voice was rough, untrained. His guitar playing was basic, but he had something. Authenticity. When Tommy sang about loneliness or loss, you believed him because he'd lived it. This particular Tuesday, October 15th, was cold. One of those fall days in New York when the wind cuts through your jacket and reminds you winter's coming. Tommy had been playing since 11 that morning. His fingers were numb. His tip case had maybe $8 in it, mostly quarters. One crumpled 5 from a tourist who'd felt sorry for him. He was about to pack it in when he decided to play one more song, Strangers in the Night. He'd learned it because people requested it, because it was Sinatra, and Sinatra always got tips. Tommy started playing, his rough voice carrying the melody, his cold fingers stumbling slightly on the chords. A few people walked past, a woman with grocery bags, a businessman checking his watch, a couple of students from NYU holding hands, not listening. Then a man stopped. He wore a cloth driving cap pulled low, sunglasses, even though it was overcast, a long wool coat, scarf wrapped around his neck. He stood about 10 feet away, hands in his pockets, just listening. Tommy noticed him but kept playing. Street musicians learned not to make eye contact. It scared people away. You played, you let them listen or not. You hoped they dropped something in your case. Tommy finished the song. The man in the cap walked closer. "You know any more, Sinatra?" His voice was growly, quiet. Tommy looked up. "Yeah, I know a few. My Way, New York, New York, the usual." The man smiled. "Play one for my baby." Tommy hesitated. "That's a tough one. I'm not sure I can try it." "I'll help you sing a little." Tommy shrugged. "All right, man, but I'm warning you, I'm no Sinatra." The man laughed. "Neither am I." Tommy started playing slow, melancholic, that late-night saloon song about drowning your sorrows and telling the bartender your troubles. He got through the first verse, his voice cracking slightly on the high notes. Then the man started singing harmony, low and smooth, supporting Tommy's melody without overpowering it. A few people stopped walking, turned to look. There was something about that voice, something familiar. By the second verse, a small crowd had formed, maybe 10 people, then 15, then 20. They stood in a semicircle watching these two men, one sitting on a milk crate with a beat-up guitar, the other standing in a cloth cap and sunglasses, sing this heartbreaking song about loneliness. Tommy got to the bridge and forgot the lyrics. Panic crossed his face, but the man kept singing, covered for him, and Tommy found his way back in when they reached the final line. "So set him up, Joe, I got a little story you ought to know." Their voices blended perfectly, Tommy's rough authenticity and the stranger's polished smoothness, creating something neither could do alone. The song ended, silence, then applause. Real applause, not polite clapping, the kind that makes you feel like you did something that mattered. Tommy looked up at the man, grinning. "Man, you can really sing. You should be doing this, not me." The man smiled. "I do." "All right." A woman in the crowd called out, "Do another one." Tommy looked at the man. "You got time?" "I got time. What do you want to sing?" "Your choice." Tommy thought for a moment. "How about Fly Me to the Moon? I know that one pretty well." The man nodded. "Good choice." Tommy started playing upbeat swinging, and the man started singing, not just supporting now, really singing, that voice filling the street corner, turning a cold Tuesday afternoon in Greenwich Village into something magical. The crowd grew. 30 people now, office workers on their lunch break, shop owners stepping out of their stores, a cop on his beat stopping to watch. And slowly some people started to realize that voice, those phrasing choices, The way he bent certain notes, the casual confidence. A middle-aged man in the crowd grabbed his wife's arm, whispered something. Her eyes went wide. She stared at the man in the cap, mouth open. But nobody said anything, because saying it out loud would break the spell, would turn this into something else, would make it about celebrity instead of music. Tommy didn't notice. He was too focused on his guitar, on keeping up with this stranger who sang like he'd been doing it his whole life. They finished Fly Me to the Moon. More applause. Louder now. Someone took out a camera. Click. Flash. The man in the cap smiled, turned to Tommy. "You're pretty good. You know that?" Tommy laughed. "Man, I'm nothing compared to you. Seriously, who are you? Are you a professional?" The man paused. "I've done some singing." "Yeah, I can tell. You should be on a stage somewhere, not standing on a street corner with me." "Maybe, but this is more fun." A young woman in the crowd called out, "Sing My Way, please." The man looked at Tommy. "You know it, of course, but that's a tough one. That's Sinatra's song. Nobody does it like him." The man smiled. "Let's give it a shot." Tommy started playing and the man began to sing, not the powerful, triumphant version from the recording. Something quieter, more personal, like he was telling a story to a friend. And this is when more people in the crowd figured it out. That voice, that phrasing, that interpretation. The middle-aged man heard whispered to his wife, pulled out a dollar bill, walked up to Tommy's case, stopped, looked at the man in the cap, really looked at him. Recognition flooded his face. He didn't say anything, just put the dollar in the case, backed away slowly. Others followed, walking up, dropping money. Fives, tens. One guy dropped a 20, all of them staring at the man in the cap, realizing not saying it, protecting the moment. Tommy noticed the money piling up, confused. He usually made $8 or $10 in a whole day. Now his case had maybe $80 in it. What was happening? They reached the final verse. "I did it my way." The man's voice cracked slightly, not from age or inability, from emotion, from meaning every word he sang. The song ended. The crowd erupted. 40 people now clapping, cheering, a few with tears in their eyes. The man turned to Tommy, extended his hand. "Thanks for letting me join you. That was fun." Tommy shook his hand. "Man, thank you. That was incredible. I still don't know who you are, but you just made my whole week." The man smiled, reached up, removed his sunglasses. Tommy's face went white. "Oh my God." Frank Sinatra smiled. "Keep singing, kid. You've got something real. I can't believe it." Frank reached into his coat, pulled out his wallet, took out a $100 bill, put it in Tommy's case. "Get yourself a better guitar, and maybe some gloves. It's cold out here." The crowd was going crazy now, people shouting Frank's name, rushing forward. The cop who'd been watching stepped in, creating space. Frank looked at the crowd, waved, then turned back to Tommy one more time. "You asked earlier if I'm a professional? But, you know what? Some of my best performances have been on street corners with guys like you. Because that's when it's just about the music. No managers, no record deals, no pressure, just two guys singing. Don't ever lose that." Then Frank walked away. The crowd parted for him. He pulled his cap back down, put his sunglasses on, and disappeared around the corner. Tommy sat on his milk crate, staring at the $100 bill in his case, trying to process what just happened. The crowd slowly dispersed, people talking excitedly, some crying, all of them knowing they'd witnessed something special. An older man, the one who'd first realized who Frank was, came over to Tommy. "Do you know who that was?" Tommy nodded, still in shock. "That was Frank Sinatra." "Do you know what just happened?" "I sang with Frank Sinatra." "No, Frank Sinatra sang with you. There's a difference." The story spread through Greenwich Village like wildfire. By that evening, everyone knew Frank Sinatra had been on Blicker Street, had sung with a street musician, had stood there for 12 minutes, like a regular person just making music. The next day, a reporter from the Village Voice tracked Tommy down, asked him about it. Tommy told the story. The article ran on Friday. Other papers picked it up. By the following week, Tommy Greco was getting calls from clubs asking him to perform. But Tommy never forgot what Frank told him. "Some of my best performances have been on street corners." So even after he started getting paying gigs, Tommy would still go back to that corner once a week, sit on his milk crate, play for tips, keep it real. In 1975, Tommy got a recording contract. Small label, nothing huge, but real. His first single was One for My Baby. He sang it exactly the way he'd sung it that day with Frank. Rough, honest, real. The single got some radio play, and one day, Tommy's phone rang. His manager said, "You're not going to believe this. Frank Sinatra's people just called. He wants you to open for him. 3 shows at Carnegie Hall." Tommy cried, actually cried. "This kid sang with me on a street corner in the village. Didn't know who I was, didn't care, just wanted to make music." That's the real thing, folks. That's what it's all about. After that show backstage, Tommy asked Frank, "Why did you stop that day? Why did you sing with me?" Frank lit a cigarette, thought about it. "Because you reminded me why I started. I've been singing in casinos and concert halls for so long, I forgot what it feels like to just stand on a corner and sing because you have to. Because the music is the only thing that makes sense. You had that. I wanted to feel it again. Did you feel it again?" Frank smiled. "Yeah, kid, I did." Tommy Greco never became a superstar. His career was modest. A few albums, some club dates, but he made a living doing what he loved. And every time someone asked him about the highlight of his career, he didn't talk about Carnegie Hall or his record deal. He talked about a Tuesday afternoon in October 1974, when a man in a cloth cap stopped to listen. When Frank Sinatra, the biggest star in the world, spent 12 minutes being nobody special, just a guy who loved to sing. The photograph someone took that day became famous. It shows 2 men on a street corner, one sitting on a milk crate with a guitar, one standing in a cap and sunglasses, both singing, both lost in the music. You can't tell which one is the legend and which one is the nobody, because in that moment they were both just musicians. Frank Sinatra joined a street musician on a cold Tuesday in Greenwich Village. The crowd had no idea who he was, and that's exactly how Frank wanted it. Because fame is temporary. But music is forever.